Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. And yes, we are here with another very special treat. You guys know we love to talk to filmmakers, creatives, everybody in the indie horror space who's giving us such wonderful content that we've had over the last year or two. And yeah, today's a big one. We got to talk with Anthony DiBlasi, the director of Malum, as well as Natalie Victoria, who is an actress in here and his co-writer. So yeah, this is a pretty big one for us. We got the old 2-for-1 special where we didn't expect that at all. We initially went for just Anthony, and then they were like, well, hey, like Natalie wants to join too. It's like, is that cool? It's like, absolutely. So like that was huge for us. We were definitely very blessed, I would say, to have that happen. And it's a pretty good interview. I gotta say, I was very happy with this one.
Oh man, yeah, this one in general came together really quick
Oh yeah.
in terms in terms of actually locking down the interview and then getting on and doing the interview, which was really surprising because we didn't think we were going to get one initially.
Hmm.
But after seeing Last Shift and that review's up and that kind of having an effect on us of I maybe being a little bit surprised at how quality that film was. We were itching to actually speak to Anthony DiBlasi and just kind of his mindset of looking at Last Shift and then jumping into Malum and kind of that reimagining and what to expect with that film, and then getting Natalie Victoria as well, which we were not expecting at all, and then being able to just pick their brains about writing and their mindset going into these films was just an absolute treat.
Yeah, Luke had some very strong questions when it comes to script writing and things that I thought they gave wonderful answers to. I mean, they were really just a huge class act. We enjoyed having them immensely. We didn't just discuss Malum and Last Ship. We have a couple of little gems in there, a couple of trilogy cappers, if I must say, without spoiling anything, that we got to debate about, which is a lot of fun. And I'd love to have those two back on at some point to even go deeper into some of that conversation, compare experiences. It's always great to have the director on here, and that's what we try to grab. But when you can have an actress or somebody who's worked under them, or even an actress who is also a co-writer, who has their hands in multiple different pies, it's like it's truly a treat because you really get unique perspectives. And I think that they both answer they field our questions very well, and they gave us very interesting, insightful answers. And yeah, I say without further ado, why don't we hop right into it? So here's our interview with Anthony DiBlasi and Natalie Victoria of Malum. So, we got you here talking about Malum. Real excited to see it next week. We're hoping that we'll get some screenings here in Cleveland. I know we got one in Cincinnati so far. So, a little bit of a drive for us, but if we have to, we will make it.
It should be there. Yeah, they're releasing a bunch more because AMC hasn't released any of its slots yet. So it should be near you.
Gotcha. Well, the first thing I wanted to touch on with you guys is so how did you guys land at Malum? Was this something that you'd been wanting to do since you guys finished Last Shift, or was this something that you guys kind of came to the realization later on down the road that there was still some life left in the story that you wanted to kind of revisit the material?
I think the main thing was when we made Last Shift, I'd always really wanted that to play theatrically. It was kind of designed for a theatrical experience. There was a lot of effort put into the sound design and stuff like that. And then in the States, it just never did a theatrical run. It went straight to streaming and Blu-ray and stuff. And then so when the Welcome Villain guys kind of formed their company, I talked to Luc LeBeau. He had brought up, would you ever consider kind of playing in the world of Last Shift again? And I was like, yeah, Scott and I thought that was exciting because, we did that for a pretty low budget. We had to leave some things on the table that we couldn't quite explore. And we kind of landed at a reimagining kind of for that reason. Like, let's take some of the things we really enjoyed about the first one. Let's kind of relaunch the franchise with a new branding. And also with the cult, we really wanted to explore the cult more and give them their own kind of mythology, which is something we barely touched on in the first film. And Luke was excited about that, and we kind of went from there, and then it turned into Malum as it is today.
Perfect. And then Luke, you got your follow up there?
Yeah, and I know you said it was exciting, kind of getting back in that world of Last Shift, and I know like getting that idea is like, oh well, this could be exciting. And then I know Last Shift has really kind of garnered this cult-like following, I think, amongst horror fans, where it's like one of those things where have you seen Last Shift yet?
Yeah.
Um, so it's like once you're there and you're in it, creating Malum, was there any hesitation to be like, because sometimes fans get this sense of ownership amongst things where it's like, oh, this is our film. This is a perfect film. Why are you exploring more into this? Was there any hesitation there, or was it just like full force? Let's do it. Let's open up this world.
I think the hesitation was more so I was really happy with Last Shift. I think we were pretty confident with it as a movie and to scare audiences. So it was mainly like, okay, well, if we're going to do this, it has to be better. It has to, or at least it has to be different and entertaining in its own way. People can still like the first one better if they, I won't battle them on that, but it has to give fans of the first one something they're like, okay, I feel like I had a totally different experience and this brought something else to it. But besides that, I think it was mainly about Last Shift's kind of cool because it's almost, when I was growing up, you'd see a horror movie in the video store and you'd be like, what is that movie?
Mm-hmm.
And you could bring it to your friends and it was like a rite of passage, like, hey, watch this movie, which is kind of hard nowadays. But I feel like Last Shift has some of that. Like there's, it's a lot of people be like, hey, have you seen this movie Last Shift? And your friends will be like, no, I don't know what that is. So it's still being discovered now, which I think is cool. I think Malum will hit like a much wider kind of mainstream audience, and it can bring in a lot of new viewers. So that was the big thing too. It's like we're making a movie where people don't have to see Last Shift to enjoy this one.
Oh, absolutely. And so like for me, I didn't even know about Last Shift until I started seeing the stuff come up for Malum, and that's how I discovered it. I know Luke had seen some of it, or at least had an exposure to it beforehand. And then like one of our buddies, Alex King from Beyond the Void, he was a huge proponent of it. He was very much like, you guys got to check this out. It's really interesting. And then so when this all kind of came together, that's when I discovered it. So I'm a relatively new fan to it, but this is all really exciting. So one of the technical questions I wanted to ask you guys was, so you both worked on the first film together. You guys shot that in about 10 days. It was a much, like you said, a smaller self-contained film. How long did it take you guys to shoot Malum as opposed to, shooting Last Shift in 10 days? Was this like a much bigger production as a whole? Or did you find your guys like selves kind of almost having that deja vu moment of like, yeah, we're kind of back in the smaller scope of things. We have all this control, but it's just kind of, we're working back in the grooves, almost like everything's working in tandem again.
It was a 22-day schedule. It's still, a tight schedule, but compared to 10 days, it's vastly different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, much better. So
much better.
and the same with the resources. We had much more resources at our disposal for this one, and we knew like a lot of that would be going to kind of practical effects and stunts and stuff like that, just to give people that bigger experience. Because again, it's like, why are we going to do it if we're just going to be, hey, let's make it again for the same size and scale? Because I think it would be hard to recapture kind of that, what we captured on the first one.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead. And then Luke, you're up.
Okay. And any chance I get, I'm a big screenwriting guy, so I love talking to people who actually write their own stuff. And I'm curious, just as partners, is there kind of a way you designate certain jobs or anything like that, like exposition wise, or anything dialogue? Is there a kind of a divvying up of strengths and weaknesses of anyone takes certain tasks in terms of writing?
Well, Natalie being the actress, I think characters is more, I'm all about plot and structure, and she's like, what plot? Fuck that plot and structure shit. What are the characters doing? I don't care about the characters. I'm like, we debate about this a lot.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, you're right. We do divvy up. Like, I do focus more on the characters and the development of those. I definitely do more of the dialogue for sure, based on that kind of development, and he focuses more on the plot and structure. But it's been interesting though. We've written several projects together now, and we actually have one out on the market right now, a thriller called The Step Counter. And we have a couple more we're developing that will be coming out later this year. And so we're getting, I think.
No, we're still fighting about structure and character.
Better about it. I was going to say.
So that's good. You do that and I'll do that. And then it will come out. It will be great at the end, right?
You can see the yin and yang, I start over here and he's like way over here. And, that's the balance. And so it works good.
It's a perfect relationship. And like, as you said, like, you do horror, you do thrillers. In terms of genre, is there anything, obviously you play in the horror space a lot, but is there anything where, like, I love the horror genre because of this, as opposed to the thriller aspect of things, in terms of things you get to play with and maybe attributes that you leave out of a screenplay?
I think for me, it was always why I loved horror was, first, I loved special effects. Like growing up, when I was a kid, it was always about, well, maybe I'd want to get into special effects makeup, and I always gravitated towards the really heavy special effects movies. And I think that, horror is just always fun to make. It doesn't matter how stressful it is. You can do like almost anything in horror. You can be funny, you can scare people, you can push actors to their limits and whole emotional ranges, and you play with monsters and effects and blood, and every day's exciting.
From a writing perspective, horror versus thriller, to answer your question, it's a little bit more fun character development wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really
for
is.
Thrillers or horror?
No, for horror.
Yeah.
100%. Because there's almost this state of, survival that your characters are always in, right? Where they're problem solving or not, Sometimes we like to see the ones who are not, and then goodbye. But for a thriller, there's not as much of that because it's such a slow burn, you know what I mean? And so you have to be really careful and tepid about what you do with those waters as they start to move. But with horror, the character development's much more fun. I think it can be a little bit more complex and more extreme, and the audiences embrace it in a way that when we're writing thrillers, and drama and even action adventure, we there's like a ceiling, I feel like, in a floor. But with horror, it's like, nope, we're going up,
Yeah.
which is really cool. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And, we're both aspiring filmmakers ourselves. We do a writing duo as well, just like you guys. So I definitely relate to you guys on the divvying up thing, where it's like, for me, I'm more of that broad strokes to a story thing, where it's like, I'll give him a treatment. And then Luke is just like, he's all dialogue, he's all character, he's all quippy. He can kind of piece that all together. So kind of my final question for you guys was, so in your filmography, you've dabbled in the occult, you've dabbled in extreme haunts, and even some Clive Barker material for you, Anthony. As a lover of creature features, cosmic horror, and slashers myself, do you guys see yourselves taking on any of those subgenres, or is there a specific subgenre that both of you would really like to tackle in the future?
Natalie loves monster movies.
I do.
She's more like
Perfect.
I don't know, and I've said this before. The movies I revisit over and over again are not often the movies I gravitate towards writing or working on, because I like, every Halloween I'm watching Lost Boys, I'm watching Fright Night, and I don't ever want to write movies like that. I don't know why. I'm not, it's not that I don't. I just don't. I think my mind's more twisted. I'm more twisted than that.
It's true.
I want to like disturb people a little more.
That's why I say yet.
Yeah.
Respect. No, I definitely get that.
I love monsters, and honestly, I'm a big fan of sci-fi as well. So
Aliens, like the perfect balance. Right?
I love Aliens. I even like Alien 3, which he always gives me shit for. But
ruined the franchise.
It did. It
good
killed off
film,
our most
ruined the
beloved favorite
franchise.
character. 100%. But
don't get me going on.
But
Alien
I thought he
3.
still did a good job, as a filmmaker overall. I was entertained. I was with it. I was in it. The special effects, are not so great. But
all right, let's talk about Alien 3.
Okay.
I was gonna say, Luke, should we break it to him? We are also huge fans of Alien 3.
Listen, Alien 3 is a good film, but
see, I'm not the only one.
The fact that they made it is ridiculous. Like the fact that they were like, you know what? Everything that James Cameron did in the last movie, like fuck all that. we're gonna kill all these characters who just busted our ass to save.
Oh yeah,
That was
So I mean, I don't know that I was really excited for when they were talking about rebooting, like having Sigourney and all them survive, Newt live on through Blomkamp's.
Yeah.
yeah, that would have been something really special for that franchise. I feel like it would have almost given you that multiversal path of like, here's for everybody over here who wanted to see it continue, and then the Alien 3 fans over in our camp over here.
Yeah.
So, you know, but I totally understand it. I know Luke is in the same camp. We're actually developing one of our podcasts this summer is going to maybe be a big 2-parter where we dive into all the behind the scenes stuff on that with like the multiple different drafts and everything. So
oh my
yeah,
gosh.
definitely diving into that. So I guess, you know, one of the kind of, since we're coming to the end here, and I'll give you guys some space to, you know, talk about Malum and everything, but when it comes to, you know, kind of taking this franchise, as you said, I know you probably can't get into too much. Are you basically stating that there's going to potentially be more following up with Malum here? Is Last Shift kind of become this thing where you're like, I have a bigger universe I'm building here? I know you probably can't say too much, but so is that the intent?
No, I mean with the flock and with, you know, I think the reason why we called him Malum is we wanted to put the focus on not this night and not this place, but on these characters in the flock and what they represent and where that story could go. So yeah, I mean, we'd love to do another one, and we've talked briefly about it. And so, you know, if this does well, then
Also, there's something fascinating about, you know, human behavior and that psychosis of groupthink, you know, which
Mhm.
cults, you know, are known for. And like, how does that happen? Because you find that, you know, oftentimes cult members, you know, are some of your pillars of society. They're not the type of people you think would fall for that. And so I think like just the whole, you know, development of that and the
Mhm.
whole world of that, you know, is very interesting, and that it has a lot of legs,
it's more story to tell for sure.
a lot to explore.
That's awesome. Very exciting. Yeah. And obviously Malum's coming to us in theaters March 31st. Do you guys have a premiere or anything coming up for it?
Next
do.
week.
Next week.
And well, actually, so if any fans in LA, I guess this morning they actually launched a campaign on Bloody Disgusting, Fango, and Dread Central that we're opening up slots for the premiere, which is going to be on Wednesday the 29th.
Yes.
Awesome.
That's all up on the website today. And I think deadline, I think they'll keep it open until Tuesday night. So if you're in LA and want to go, RSVP.
Come join us.
Come join us.
Great. And then obviously, where can the folks at our channel find you guys? Where's the best place to connect? What social media do you guys use?
Social media. I'm really only on Instagram, as little as I can be, but I'm on there. Aunt DiBlasi.
Instagram, you know, Natalie Victoria DiBlasi. It's easy to find. And we're both on Twitter too. I'm at Natalie V Artist, and he's at Ant_DiBlasi.
And if you want the latest Malum news, Welcome Villain would be the place 100%. You get everything.
And Welcome Villain's easy to find. They're on every single Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, great group. Those guys are awesome.
Beautiful. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
All righty. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen, the interview with Anthony DiBlasi and Natalie Victoria. Again, thank you so much, guys, for coming on the show. We deeply appreciate you giving us some of your valuable time to just talk some shop with us, talk some horror movies, and definitely talk about a horror movie that Luke and I thought was really unique, very special, and a lot of fun. So yeah, I gotta say, this is definitely in another great one in the books for us. I mean, we haven't really had what I would say a bad interview yet, so everybody's been really top notch, but this again is just one of those ones with how quick it came together. Because like, I need to stress this, guys, like, we got in contact with their PR the day of this interview. So the day we recorded it was when we got in contact with them. So this came together really fast. Like, there was a lot of pressure on Luke and I's end of sitting here trying to come up with questions, because we had yet to see Malum and we'd only seen Last Shift. So it was just kind of like, okay, what are we going to do here? So it's just like, it was a lot, but I think it went off really well.
Yeah. We had just a few hours in between locking down the interview and then actually hopping on here to record that interview. So Me and Dylan were able to touch base and kind of field some questions between and pick our own brains and decide what was good. And, it's great to talk to directors of the horror space. I mean, you can tell they're not tourists, so to speak, of the horror space. It's really, they want
They're
to,
seasoned.
yes, and they want to stay in the horror realm and kind of, expand upon the storytelling and everything like that. And it's anytime we get to just sit down, like you said, we haven't really had a bad interview yet. And it's hard to have a bad interview when you're speaking to people about, horror movies and their own creations and things. It's people talking with people.
Absolutely. And that's what always works out the best. But yeah, guys, that's going to wrap us up here for our interview. Thank you again to Anthony and Natalie. We appreciate you guys so much for coming on. As always, we got a lot of great content out on the channel already. We have our review of Last Shift, which has both these folks involved. Again, that review went up on Sunday. We also have our Carno 2 video with Alex from Beyond the Void podcast, as well as some great Scream collabs from a couple weeks back with Evan from Rockland Graves. Definitely check those out. We did talk some Leatherface news and the Sunday scaries, although what I would say maybe turned out at the start to be a slower news week, I think really ends with a pretty bang up story, something that I think is important for us as a community to check out. So definitely give that one a watch and let us know your thoughts for sure. But yeah, I guess that about wraps us up here. So until next time, I am Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.